If you've ever played strategy games, you may have come across a tech tree. Now, this is a diagram that shows you how to get from the very basic Dark Age technology that you're handed at the beginning of the game to the space age future tech with which one can vanquish thine enemies. Now, imagine that you're playing a game like this, but you have to leave the game for some reason. Someone is going to come in and take your place in the game. What's the first thing that they want to know?
What year is it?
What I'm proposing here is a rating system for the technical and systemic design maturity of Figma files, a scale by which to measure design files based on the tools and techniques currently at play for those times when you're airdropped into the unknown forests of someone else's Figma file.
Don't cry, don't cry. Don't cry, it's gonna be okay.
One caveat. This isn't a prescription, it's a description. I'm not saying you have to follow these steps in order to progress, rather that these steps seem to be the kind of natural inertia that most teams tend to flow through in my experience.
The primitive age.
In the primitive age, you're likely to walk into an unorganized mess. You have frames, shapes, pen tool assets, text boxes and colors, most likely unorganized and uncategorized. And it's from this point of primitive assets that you move forward into the next stage.
The feudal age.
In the feudal age, you start to build out some rules and guidelines for yourself as well as other designers working on this project. Things that make your life easier down the line. For example, naming your frames, grouping objects so that they're easier to see and move around, creating consistent spacing between individual assets, creating text styles and color styles so that you can keep consistency throughout your work.
The industrial age.
In the industrial age, we start to build out systems that allow us to move faster and more accurately. First, by ensuring pixel purity. This is the way that we are basically ensuring that all of our assets are set to exact pixel dimensions rather than fractions of pixels. This will ensure that we're always 100% correct when it comes to our spacing and that we never encounter any issues where the numbers just don't add up in terms of layouts, grids, and the like. Components. These are by far the most critical aspects of building a sustainable, usable, and flexible Figma file. We have to have components that are reusable, that are easy to understand, and that are flexible enough that you can use them on multiple places, maybe even for multiple purposes. And lastly, a spell checker. Now, unfortunately, at time of recording, Figma doesn't have an internal spell checker, but there are quite a few plugins that do this job pretty effectively.
The information age.
This is where we see the fruits of our labor. Once you have components set up, you'll be in a position to move much faster. For instance, creating various subcomponents of your main component that will allow you to do things like create dark mode versions for everything that you're doing, or swap out assets in such a way that you can change out icons, change the direction of arrows, etc. The ability to create auto layouts. This is critical for a sustainable solution because if you're not using auto layouts, you'll have to do a lot of manual work whenever you want to add something new into your layout. And as we've discussed before, the rate at which development moves nowadays is so efficient that without these tools, you are not going to keep up with your developers. Second to last is content. Now, I personally have started using this in all my Figma files and I found it really effective. Basically creating components that work as content boxes. So for example, what is the text that you use as an error in your forms? Now, of course, there are a lot of different text types and text errors, but you may need some house for this information. What I've found is, opposed to other kinds of design tools, copywriters and UX writers are actually willing to take on Figma and collaborate in this space. And so it becomes a really good opportunity to use Figma as a sort of shared repository. Lastly, design systems. Now, whether you're using Figma's internal design tools, whether you're using a plugin, or whether you're just building out your own design system in a separate Figma file, the presence of a design system tells me that this file is in a good place. It is mature, and it's heading in the right direction. If there's no design system, it's a big red flag and that we need to go back and re-look at some of our internal processes. Now, these are the 4 stages of a file's maturity as I see them, but I'd love to know what you think. Write in the comments, what do you relate to in this explanation? What do you disagree with? And what's something that has raised an eyebrow for you when looking at someone else's files? This channel's subscribers have doubled in the last month, and so a big thank you to all the new folks who've joined. Please let me know if there's anything else that you'd like me to cover, and otherwise, have an awesome day.